Is it worth it? It's a question we always ask ourselves, whether we're buying a new phone, a new car, or in my case, a new gaming handheld. And lately, that question has been getting a lot more complicated because as these ARM devices running Android get more and more powerful, we're not just talking about playing simple mobile games anymore or old classic emulation titles. We're talking about PC emulation. The promise of taking your favorite PC games, the ones you typically play with a keyboard and mouse or on your favorite x86 handheld, and playing them on a screen you can actually hold in your hands, a truly portable experience. So my question today is it worth spending money on the latest chips if your main goal is PC emulation? Or can you get away with something like the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2? To test this, I'll be comparing two devices head to head. The Odin 2 Portal, powered by the tried and true Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 with 12GB of RAM, compared to my Legion Y700 Gen 4, running the brand new Snapdragon 8 Elite. So which one of these two devices is better for PC gaming on ARM? And do you really need to chase the cutting edge? Or is last year's flagship already good enough? Let's hop in and find out. To start things off, I'm using a service called GameHub. It's an app made by GameSir, a company best known for making controllers. Out of all the options out there, I think this one strikes a good balance. It's simple, it's reliable, and it's easy to navigate. Once you've installed the app, I would also make sure to just check for updates one more time. Press the start button and scroll down to the settings menu. Then scroll down to the about and just check for update. Once you're on the latest version, then you know we're ready to proceed. To log into your Steam account, make sure to go to this main page up top. It should say My. Then just click on the Steam page and it'll log you in. You can sign in using the QR code from the Steam app. That's the quickest way to sign in. Once you have the Steam page open, just scroll down and you'll start to see all the games in your library. For this test, I want to try a spread of different performance tiers. An easy game, something lightweight to establish a baseline. A mid-tier game with a little bit more demand to push the CPU, and a visually demanding indie to stress the GPU. So what better place to start than with a modern classic, Hollow Knight? It's not the most demanding game in the world, but it's not completely trivial either, so it's a great baseline test. One feature I like about GameHub is the built-in compatibility check. Next to each game, it tells you whether PC emulation supported is expected to be perfect, playable, or not even supported at all. For Hollow Knight, that shows perfect support, at least according to the app. For the mid-tier test, I'm gonna go with Skyrim because I've seen this running on other people's devices before, but I'm really curious to know firsthand how well it performs here. It's a larger install at about 15GB, but my Portal has enough, so let's give it a try too. And for the visually demanding test, I want to go for Stray. It's a smaller install, just about 6GB, but it's visually gorgeous and a good example of an indie title that punches well above its weight. It's not a massive AAA release, but its optimized design is still demanding enough to tell us something about raw graphical performance. So that's our lineup. Now it's just a matter of downloading everything. This will take a little while, so let's fast forward and see how each game runs. Just a quick note on my testing to keep everything consistent. I'm running standard performance on both. The screens are essentially set to their max refresh rate. The Odin's fan is also set to smart, while the tablet's lack of a fan means there's nothing to adjust there. Let's start our first test, Hollow Knight. Just from starting it up, even the initial installation and setup, I noticed a huge, significant difference. The Snapdragon 8 Elite on the Y700 launched the game extremely fast compared to the Odin 2. We're talking about maybe a 5 to 8 second difference. And the menu performance is absolutely staggering. On the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, I'm getting a pretty solid 140 FPS. But do you see that Y700 Gen 4? Over 300 FPS. That's a massive jump in a game that should be pretty easy to run on both. However, this is just obviously the menu. Even when you load them at the same time, you're going to see some pretty interesting differences. In case you can't see that, let me zoom in and just show you exactly what kind of difference we're talking about here. The Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, found in the Odin 2 portal, runs this game pretty damn well out of the box. The game works flawlessly, even with the D-pad. The visuals are, quite frankly, incredible. However, the joystick doesn't seem to work in mine. This is not a problem I'm having on the Snapdragon 8 Elite with the Absolute S9. Despite the joystick quirks, the D-pad performance is impressive, with the FPS hovering around 80. But see the utilization? The CPU is basically capped at 100%, while the GPU is only using about 17 to 18%. That's a huge CPU bottleneck, but the game on the portal is still buttery smooth. Power consumption is roughly around 8 to 9 watts. The portal, while running pretty smooth at 80 FPS, while the Snapdragon 8 Elite, there's a pretty big jump between the two. Just look at that difference, 175 FPS. The CPU is no longer the bottleneck. We're not running out of RAM, and this is only using 8 watts of power. Another good piece of news here is that the joysticks work right flawlessly out of the box on the Y700. Here's the crazy thing. That's running in balanced mode. However, if I push this to performance mode, the CPU clock goes all the way up to 4.3 GHz. But that doesn't mean that the FPS is going to go much higher because the GPU utilization is at 0%, but this is clearly a reporting bug. This thing has so much headroom compared to the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. Even in performance mode, we're only using around 12 watts of power. So for Hollow Knight, the Snapdragon 8 Elite provides a tangibly better experience. More consistent frame rate. The difference isn't huge for playability, but it's there. The Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 is good enough for titles like this, but the Snapdragon 8 Elite is truly more powerful, even in balance mode. Before we swap over to the next test, I have to point out a really annoying flaw with this app. Every single time I switch games, it asks me to sign in. I have to go through the whole process again, get that email verification code, sign into Steam. It's a small thing, but it's crazy. It completely breaks the flow of the experience. I'm not sure if it's just because I'm trying to run 2 of these at once, but let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you have a fix to that, definitely let me know. So yes, the Snapdragon 8 Elite is faster, but that constant login issue is a reminder that the performance of a handheld isn't just about the raw numbers. It's about the ecosystem, the software, and the user experience. Let's try Skyrim. This is what I mean about the login. Every single time. For Skyrim, the app wants me to default to 720p. This is very easy to fix though. If you just press back, click on the settings, and then exit. You can also change the settings for each game by going down and then clicking on these 3 dots. Then click PC game settings. I'm keeping these consistent across all tests. For this one, I'm going to turn off windowed mode, but we're going to leave it in 720p. You can also change the compatibility settings here. I want to use the same compatibility layer, the latest driver update for both of these SoCs, the latest DXVK version, and the latest VK D3D version. I'm going to go ahead and update these to make sure that that's set to the latest. Because this one is capping out the performance, I am going to go into the performance mode specifically for the Snapdragon 8 Elite. This pushes the TDP all the way up to 20 watts. Even with the Odin 2 in its performance mode, that thing's only getting 20 FPS, but I'm getting a pretty solid 50 FPS now on the Snapdragon 8 Elite. But I'm noticing something else. I'm noticing that the screen is flashing on the Snapdragon 8 Elite. It must be some sort of driver issue, so I'd probably have to dig around to find out which driver works the best. Scary thing is that tablet is now running at 19 watts. I honestly had no idea this device even went that high. It's pushing more power than some full-fledged gaming handhelds from a few years ago. I don't necessarily want this thing to cook itself, but it's clear that the Snapdragon 8 Elite is incredibly powerful. It's just not the magic bullet, not till we have driver support. Either way, that's quite a noticeable difference. I wouldn't really consider that experience playable, even at 720p. The screen was just a little odd on this one, the driver just doesn't seem ready quite yet. As far as the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, it wasn't really looking good. For a game like Skyrim, neither of these handhelds are going to give you a truly playable PC experience. Even the most powerful mobile hardware isn't a substitute for a mobile dedicated gaming PC. But now, the ultimate test, Stray. This is a visually gorgeous, modern indie that's incredibly well optimized. And honestly, I'm hoping it works. In regards to the settings, I'm going to leave it at exclusive full screen mode with 720p. I'm also going to uncap the frame rate and leave VSync off. Motion blur is shut off. All the other game settings are at medium. This is the same exact settings on the Y700 Gen 4. Gotta keep this as scientific as possible after all. I gotta say, wow. 86 FPS. Okay, well anywhere from about 70 to 85 FPS on the Snapdragon 8 Elite. On the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, it's really struggling at 34. Anywhere from about 30 to 35. Honestly, this is really impressive, and I can't believe this works at all. Let alone this well, especially on the Snapdragon 8 Elite. I would say this is playable. This is very, very impressive. Guys, we're talking about a truly playable PC experience on Android. So after all that, what have we learned? For demanding modern indie games like Stray. The extra power of the Snapdragon 8 Elite is tangible. This provides a noticeable jump in performance. But the ceiling is still too low for it to be a good experience on the Odin. The Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 just simply isn't fast enough for this kind of task. The answer to the original question, is the Snapdragon 8 Elite worth it for PC emulation? In my opinion, it's a resounding yes. The Snapdragon 8 Elite isn't just a little bit better. It's the first mobile chip that can truly deliver a playable, enjoyable PC gaming experience on the go. The moment here isn't just about the bare number. This is the leap we've been waiting for. Honestly, I expected a pretty big gap, but 2 to 2.5 times the FPS is pretty substantial. The brute power of the Snapdragon 8 Elite is far surpassing the optimization of the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. We saw it in Skyrim. Neither device was truly exceptional, highlighting the limits of the technology itself. But most importantly, we saw it with Stray, where the Snapdragon 8 Elite transformed an unplayable experience into something genuinely enjoyable. It's about a tangible shift in what's possible for PC emulation on Android. The Snapdragon 8 Elite opens up a class of games that were previously out of reach for Android. So the question remains, would you upgrade from a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 device to a Snapdragon 8 Elite just for PC emulation alone? So what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Do you own a Portal? Do you like it? Do you have a Snapdragon 8 Elite device? And have you tried PC emulation on it? As always, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.